Good morning, and thanks for joining us here on Condo Solutions. Every Monday morning from 9 to 10 o'clock here on WSTU, we talk about things that affect you and your condominium or your homeowners association, some of the rules and regulations that you might want to be aware of, or some of the things that you might find interesting and something that you could use in your day-to-day life. So we encourage you to call. The number is 220-9788, 220-WSTU, and we'll be happy to get you on the air. My name is Mark Breckbill. I'm a local CPA and a community association manager, and have been working in this area for some number of years, way too many, but I like it anyway. And but along with me is our attorney who's been doing this with us for 16, 17 years now or more, Peter Mullengarden. Peter is he has been doing this type of law, practicing this type of law since he was a baby, and he's got it down now. And so he'll help you out. No, all kidding aside, Peter's the kind of attorney you want. He's the one that most of the time, if it's possible, he'll give you a straight answer, the answer that he thinks based on what his analysis is. But when there's other options, he'll let you know. And speaking of other options, the other thing that we always caution everybody is when you call in, we need a name. We don't need your name, but any name, but we do need a name. And second of all, we do need to let you know that we don't need your association name. We prefer not to have the association because that can cause some confusion, and people sometimes listening don't think it applies to them, and it does. So that's one caveat. Second caveat is we don't have your documents. So we're going to give you the best answer we can without your documents. We will try to base it on your interpretation of your documents, standard practices, laws, rules, regulations, and those type of things. But without your documents, we can't give you a hard and fast go to court type answer. So we call those radio answers because they're the best we can do on the radio. So if you do need a hard and fast answer, then you need to call somebody like Peter and give him a buzz and let him look at your documents and give you a good answer and maybe go down the right path instead of going off on the side. The last thing I'll mention is that we do try to, like I said, we try to give you the best answer we can. We try to, but we're going to expand it a little bit maybe from your questions sometimes. So be patient with us because there are other people out there who have similar circumstances, but maybe not exactly the same. So the answer might be a little different. So we may give some of the options. Anyway, that's the basis of the show. It's been that way for about 16 or 17 years, and we're happy to do it. We hope hopefully we'll be able to help you out sometime in your lives as a owner of a condo or HOA or just considering moving into one. We have our first caller this morning, Peter. So we're going to get right to it. Connie, go ahead. Hang on a minute, Connie. We'll get you there. Connie, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Technical.
Good morning.
Morning.
I've been calling for several months, and I have a few questions. If having an annuity in a nonprofit corporation in which the annuitant is the officer of said corporation violates 617, could you please tell me which part of the statute it violates? Because we need to know the interpretation that you're using based on the particular statute.
Well, first of all, it's a
it's a breach of fiduciary duty,
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you tell me where to look?
I don't know if there's a specific section 617 that says thou shalt not name themselves as an annuitant per se. But these are all association funds for association purposes.
But I will tell you, Connie, where it comes into play is in 617. That is a not-for-profit. Now that doesn't make you a non-profit for tax purposes, but that
Right.
is a not-for-profit corporate statute, and under that statute, it provides certain protections to the members as volunteers, but it prohibits under 617. It prohibits the use of any of the funds for personal annulment, personal benefit. Okay. One of the things that you can't do is use that corporate entity to use it as a shelter to protect yourself when you're doing something that's benefiting yourself personally. All right. So I don't know exactly where that is in the statute. I think it's just a general statement that is in there somewhere, and I don't have it in front of me. But it prohibits personal annulment. So as soon as the officer is getting a benefit, which they're the owner, then that those funds have in effect been transferred to that owner. And so they're receiving a benefit or could receive a benefit from that. And that's why it's not allowed. Second of all, even beyond 617, the state in their rules and regulations have provisions as to what's allowable investments. And an annuity is not allowable investment because it can't be an investment in the name of the company. So as soon as you transfer the ownership of that asset to an individual, you violated a couple of the statutes, a couple of the laws, rules, regulations, and all of that, because it's not an allowed investment. It's not an investment by the owner. By the company or the association. It's an individual investment. So somebody is getting a benefit out of that because they own that policy. And it doesn't make any difference that they are doing it for the benefit of, you can argue that all day long, but the federal government doesn't buy it, the state government doesn't buy it, and the department doesn't buy it. It's not once you've transferred something to your name personally, regardless of what your intentions are, you've violated the rules and regulations in the statute. So
where so specifically, because there are two annuities. And the annuitants are one, the treasurer, the other, the president. Now, I own an annuity myself, personally, and I leave my children as beneficiary. We can't even see the papers that tells us who the beneficiary is. We're hoping it's the association. But these annuities were purchased in the names of these two individuals.
Right, because you can't buy life insurance in the name of a company. So that's why
right.
that's why as soon as you've transferred, and that's why I'm struggling with a specific portion of the statute, because it's kind of the all of it. I mean, when you start looking at the statute itself, there's prohibitions against you transferring company assets to yourself. I mean, an officer of a condo association or a homeowners association can't just transfer assets to themselves. And that's what you're doing, regardless of what. As soon as you do that, you're the annuitant. It's in your name because it has to be based on an individual, and you've all of a sudden, created this transfer, and I don't care what's happened unless somebody, there's always the possibility when you do this that because it's an individual who's an annuitant, somebody can argue who owns that policy, and it's not the association, potentially, and it's not, and so you've created a situation where somebody could have a claim on that.
Exactly. So if the person were to die or pack up and leave, it's their money.
Well,
essentially.
It could be because, and it depends on how the policy is written, but if the annuitant, you got to look and see who's the owner of the policy. Is
the owner different than the annuitant?
Yes, they can be. But
can it be? Can the owner be the association? It's a condo association.
I believe that the owner can potentially be a corporate entity, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Now, where can I go to find out this information?
I would ask an investment advisor what the status is, but I don't believe that. I know it can't be the annuitant because the annuitant's got to be an individual. I do think you can have a corporate beneficiary, but I think you can't have a corporate owner. But I'm not sure on that. I'm not 100% sure on that.
So the person who sold this to the association should know all that.
Right. Yeah, they should
Should know
that.
that.
But
And-
but the point is, regardless of whether you can do that or not, the fact is it's not an allowed investment. The state does restrict what you can invest in, and you're not allowed to invest in just whatever you want. You can't go out and put the reserve funds into futures contracts, and and speculate on that.
Okay, so again, am I reading this in 718, or do I call someone to get?
There's, I believe there's language relative to investments in, not in 718 itself, but I think it's covered directly in the rules as to what are allowable investments. And I don't
in the rules
of the states, the division.
There's the Florida Administrative Code.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
right.
I mean, they're fiduciaries. I mean, they can't derive an improper personal benefit. They have a fiduciary responsibility. It's not their money.
Right.
There's, again, the statute is very specific about, you can't take kickbacks, you can't get improper personal benefit, those kind of things. It doesn't quite fit the box here, I guess. But the bottom line is, it's, this is association funds, and it must be maintained, basically in the name of the association. Not this individual. I mean, I'm not an expert on, the annuities and that kind of stuff, but the money needs to be deposited, with the for the association.
Well, I mean, it was, actually, the second $200,000 annuity, it was a telephone canvas of the.
But that's all.
Wait. Of the board members. Now, we've asked for a copy of this canvas.
But even I know you have mentioned that before. But even if it had been approved in an open board meeting, with minutes and everything else, it still doesn't make it right. So
No. Go even further than that. And my phone's going to die, so I have to get another phone. No, we have asked for a copy of this tally vote that he has, but we can't get it. So, like, there's 15 members of the board. He says he called all or most of them, and someone, one of the board members has gone into the office requesting that he, show the list, and he won't. He says they'll do it at the next board meeting. Unfortunately, they've already canceled the September board meeting.
Yeah, well, I think that at this point, I mean, from a practical standpoint, like I say, you've got restrictions on an annuity contract that's owned by a corporation or a non-natural person. Typically they have to be held by a natural person to get the benefits of tax deferral and all of those kind of things. So it's and that's the problem. There are some federal tax issues in there as well, you're creating some issues there because they can't have that kind of deferral in an annuity.
If you're taking the anything out of it, let's say the interest part, and you're having it put into another account, like, who pays the taxes on that?
Well, see, here's the thing. There's, yes, typically, the beneficiary would end up paying, be paying tax when they pull it out. So what happens is, you have three basic types of annuities. You have an income annuity, variable annuities, and immediate annuities. An income annuity is similar to a certificate of deposit in that it pays an interest rate, just like a CD, but it's not a certificate of deposit. It's not insured. It's so it's not so it's not covered by insurance or anything of that nature. But so you've got the income annuity is the one that's like a CD. You have a variable annuity. That's where the annuity, inside the annuity, it invests in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, that kind of thing. And so you can, inside that annuity, you can have a lot of different types of investments. And then the third is what's called an immediate annuity. That's one where it's similar to a retirement plan type thing, where you get a payment for life or a payment for a fixed number of years. And that's paid out to the annuitant over their life, is how it works. So you've got those three types of annuities. And then there's variations from them. The taxes, those annuities, because they're insurance products, the earnings within the annuity are tax deferred. You don't pay the taxes until you pull it out. But when you pull it out, you pay taxes at ordinary income tax rates. So, if you're accumulating the earnings within the annuity, like you would with a variable annuity, then you don't pay tax on that right away. But when you pull that out, you're going to pay tax on it. The income annuities, they typically have a life. And one that were popular and that a lot of people were trying to use, and a lot of associations, were looking at one point, and this is what is the common ones that they've tried to do, is there's a provision in a lot of these income contracts that they pay a minimum interest rate. So it might be a 3-year or a 5-year annuity, right? And it guarantees you a minimum interest rate of 3%, or a range of interest rates or something like that. There's all kinds of variations of these things, but with that, so some people were doing these 1-year deals where they had a minimum 3% return, and it was better than they were getting in CDs. But
right.
It's not insured. It's not in a state bank. It's not insured. It's not an allowed investment under the administrative code. So it's not. It's one of those kind of things where it just doesn't. It's not allowed because it's outside of prudent practice. Plus, it gives the individual some potential benefit out of the thing that they could get, regardless of what the deal is. Sometimes those contracts have restrictions on them in terms of the ability to transfer them, the ability to, and sometimes the policy can be canceled by the owner or by the annuitant. The annuitant can transfer. There's things that can be done there. And you've got to be careful with those. I mean, even as an individual, you got to be careful with those contracts. Like I said, most insurance contracts have a provision that if somebody is going to be the beneficiary other than your spouse, you have to get your spouse to sign off. And in fact, many of them, even if it's an ex-spouse, you have to get the spouse to sign off. So,
Right.
If you're going to transfer it to somebody else. So, it's they are investments that are designed for individuals, not for corporations, and they're an insurance product, and you can't insure the life of an individual, of a corporation, because it can't die. So
Right.
So you can look at who's owning it, who's paying for it, but at some point it has to have an individual involved in it, and that individual has some rights under the contract. And and when that happens, they're getting a benefit or have the potential for receiving a benefit out of it. Like I say, plus it's not a prudent investment under the regs. It's not insured. It doesn't have any kind of provision for any insurance under it, regardless of what it's invested in. and so you're at the at the beck and call of the insurance company. And I know people say, well, they're safe. Well, they are, but until they go broke. Remember, those of us that are a little older remember 20 years ago when a bunch of those insurance companies went under, and
Yeah.
those policies became worthless, and all of the accumulated value in those policies went away because they lost all that money to creditors. So it's a speculative investment that involves a potential benefit to an individual using association funds, and it's invested in items that that they're not allowed to invest in. So
Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, would you say that this type of transaction or this type of, I don't want to call it a scheme, but what they're doing here would be something where the officer or the director will derive an improper personal benefit or potentially an improper personal benefit?
Yeah, they could, for them or their family, depending upon what happens and how those things are set up.
Because under Chapter 718, as I can't talk right now. Take a message. Under Chapter I'm sorry, like that. You're supposed to screen my calls in one.
That's right.
Under Chapter 718 as well as Chapter 617, a director cannot derive an improper personal benefit. Under Chapter 718, they're personally monetarily liable for those kind of transactions, as well as under 617-0834, which is where an officer or a director breaches their fiduciary duty or acts in bad faith. So there are statutes that address it. I mean, nothing that I'm aware of that says, thou shalt not take an annuity, that's specific. But nothing where they can get, again, an improper personal benefit, breach of fiduciary duty, that kind of thing. And the officer director, again, is potentially personally monetary liable for those kinds of actions.
Yeah, and that's and plus the investment itself steps beyond the realm of a reasonable
right. Well, I'm saying that's
investment type thing. And
well,
so,
I've always said, and I also mentioned, I guess, on this issue before, that most documents, not every step, but most documents in their declaration or their bylaws, and maybe the articles, also have specific requirements about the investment of association funds. Usually something to the effect of shall be invested in a depository in the county in which the association is located. That's
right.
Actually, that's what it does say in a bank, in local bank, and
you don't really have to go any further. That's it.
Yeah,
they're violating that. I mean, you really don't have to go much further searching. Those documents are enforceable as a contractual obligation, and they're supposed to be in compliance with that. So even if this was a some other situation, as Mark was saying, where they were taking the money, maybe not putting it into an annuity, but doing riskier type investments, even if they're in the name of the association, that wouldn't be permitted if under the documents it's simply supposed to be in a depository earning what's the current interest rate, Mark? 1.0, whatever it is.
Under that, probably.
Unfortunately, interest rates are what they are, to use an overused phrase. But this situation that you're dealing with seems to be in violation of these particular sets of documents, as well as improper personal benefit, which would be in violation of 718 and 617. So you tie all these things together. It sounds like whether or not these board members approve this transaction, either through some sort of written consent or at a board meeting or otherwise, to me, kind of irrelevant. They can't approve something that's wrong. Okay?
Well, I don't believe for the most part, these board members are
aware.
Yeah, aware, because the phone call you get is, we want to invest $200,000 in an annuity, blah, blah, blah. And the only reason why I was told who the annuitant was because the last one they bought was bought the annuitant is the treasurer. And the president who called said, "Oh, I know you don't like so-and-so, so it's going to be in my name." And that's how I know that we bought an annuity in his name. I don't think that half of the other board members even questioned it. All they knew was, we want to buy an annuity for $200,000, and, I need your vote. And they voted. But again, we don't know who voted, how they voted, because they won't, show us the paper that And then after that, we found out that there were 2 board members that were not called, but were called days after the annuity was purchased. So we know for a fact that these 2 weren't called. We don't know how many others. There's 16 board members.
Well, there's nothing stopping any owner, yourself or anyone else, to write to all 15 board members and say, well, maybe perhaps you're not aware of this, or maybe you are, but you guys have entered into this annuity. This is wrong. We want it reversed immediately. So I'm getting, I don't want to get all too tied up in who approved what when. If they're not aware of it, make them aware of it. Send them a certified mail inquiry to the board, make them respond regarding how this thing was entered into and when are they going to stop it.
And Connie, you have a right to ask for a copy of that annuity, of those annuities.
Yes, they're one of the. See, I'm up in New York right now, and I am a board member, and I'm there about 6 months out of the year, 5.5 months. There is a board member that lives down there all the time, and he went in and he asked to see the annuity, and as a board member and a homeowner there, won't show it to them, won't show him the list. Like I said, if you make a phone inquiry, then you have to check off who said yes, who said no, blah, 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 and they won't show him that either. So we don't even know unless and there are some board members that won't talk to us because we're newbies. We're from 1 to 5 years on the board, and they are 10, 12, 15 years on the board.
Right.
So the board is actually stacked against the new people.
I would send this.
As far as elections are concerned, there are never enough people to run for the board, so the same people are on it.
Well,
The
Connie,
reason
let
me finish.
Go ahead.
The reason why there aren't enough people to run for the board, because they are systematically talked to and told, oh, you have to go to meetings. Oh, you had a stroke. You don't want to be on the board. Oh, so we never have an election. This year, we're trying to have an election. Our annual meetings in December, which excludes everyone that goes down in January and February. We can't get a list of emails and addresses so that we can send some kind of statement. We're having do you want to run? And now we're told that the September meeting has been canceled because of COVID. Yet the office is open and people go in and out all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate answer is to try to affect it through an election. But right now, you've got a bigger problem, and that is that you've potentially got risks with these investments. So what I would suggest is that you write a letter, send it certified to the board, request to the association, just to the association itself, requesting copies of the annuities. You want copies, specifically copies of those annuity contracts, and then get a hold of those. And once you've got a hold of those, we can see what they did. And I can guarantee you that they did something that they weren't supposed to do, because you can't. I mean, you've got to have the association has to have an insurable interest. In the person. even to do any kind of insurance. If I've got a contract, let's say I've got an insurance contract, I'm a corporation and I'm buying Keyman life insurance or that type of thing, then I've got to have an insurable interest on that. That's got to be consistent with, there's got to be some interest that's consistent with that person's position. In a volunteer organization where they're not paid, there's no compensation, there's no connection there. So somebody had to falsify or incorrectly indicate something to get that done. So that's why it's different. It's a different contract, and when you've got corporations involved in it, yes, there are situations where corporations can own insurance. They can be the beneficiary. You can have Keyman life insurance where the corporation owns the policy, and then the beneficiary is the company, and the person whose life is involved is the key person, the officer. But you got to have an insurable interest. There are restrictions on that, and that's life insurance, not annuities. So you need to see the annuity contract, how it's written, who purchased the policy using what funds, and how it was set up. And I guarantee you there was probably some transfer that took place there to an individual's account to buy it, even if they put it in the name of somebody else. Because those annuities are, you wouldn't be able to write that under normal insurance guidelines. So
So what you're saying is that money must have or could have or should have been put in to the individual's name so that he could purchase the annuity?
No, I'm saying that if there's a corporation involved, corporations can't just go out and get insurance on people. There has to be some dollar amount that's reasonable, and there has to be some sort of and there has to be some sort of insurable interest, some reason that you're buying the insurance on an individual. And so those kind of things, I can't see how, even if you could do it, there is no way that can be done, because the association just doesn't have that kind of insurable interest on an association member who's a volunteer. On a membership organization, you just don't have that kind of insurable interest. It's not like a for-profit corporation where you've got some key individual that if they die, the company can lose money. That's not the situation here. So I can't see how, even if you could, I can't see how they can show an insurable interest in this transaction without at some point having that $200,000 or whatever the annuity amount was in the name of that individual. And so, even if it was shown as basically being loaned to the individual, and that's the insurable interest, but at that point, the individual was involved in and got a benefit, so to speak. And you can say, well, what benefits out there? Well, they may have gotten some benefit from the commission that was paid. They may have gotten some side benefit from doing business with a certain company or broker. They may have other transactions with that particular insurance company, and that insurance company might provide discounts based on the size of the policies that you write with that association. Those are all illegal activities, even though people don't realize it. I mean, even just the fact that you get a discount because you've got 4 policies with MetLife instead of New York Life.
Right.
All of that then is a personal benefit that person got potentially. So, or could get, even if they're the annuitant, they may be able to go into that same insurance company and get an annuity on their own and get a discount. That's a benefit. Regardless how big or small it is, it's a benefit that they're not allowed to get by using corporate funds. And a lot of times it's probably, if they're doing any of this through a broker, they're getting some benefit with the broker, even if it's just the fact that the broker's thinking, geez, this guy, there's decent premium commissions that are involved in annuities, depending upon the time. And so, if I'm the broker, and I got a guy that's bringing in association money, and I know they got $1 million worth of association money, I'm probably going to treat them pretty nice on their other stuff. I might even cut them a break on terms of the commission that I charge them or the fees that I charge them. So all of the, but what you need to do, first, Connie, is get a hold of that document, find out who it was written through, where it was, where it's being held, and find out. And then once you've got that document, who the parties are at that point. It gives you the ability to do some further investigation and find out, what's going on there. And then you'll be able to track down the benefit, and then it'll be pretty straightforward.
Well, I'm hoping so, because the first one was purchased in 2016, and a board member, a homeowner, questioned it, and it went as far as the DOB, the whatever offices, because they wouldn't show him the annuity. And so he filed a complaint, and it went back and forth, and then it was just dropped.
Well, so, I would
again, the statute's pretty clear that all funds of the association must be collected and maintained separately in the association's name. I'm not even sure this even complies with that.
Right.
Frankly. That's in the statute. That's in 718. That's just a pretty simple sentence.
Right. All right. All right. So it's a certified letter, and
yeah, it's a request sent by certified mail requesting.
I made a simple request a year ago to see the declaration page on the insurance policy. And I was handed a computer and the entire insurance policy. And I just asked a simple question. It's a very simple question. Wow. And after an hour of interruptions and people coming in and out, and I left. And I never got my question answered. It was a simple question. All I wanted to know is, are we liable if we have dinners and we have alcohol at the dinners, which we don't, but people can bring their own? Are we covered if someone leaves? And, but he could not give me a straight answer. He could have called the insurance company and said, by the way, but no, he hands me a computer, and so I left. And so many other people in the past 2 years have gone in and asked for the declaration page, and he's busy, he can't do it, he'll let you know.
Connie, there's only two solutions to this: political and legal. Political and legal. If you can't vote these guys out, then you have to start, unfortunately, flinging either lawsuits or administrative complaints. The administrative complaints are based on statute, lawsuit based on either under the statute or under your documents. Unfortunately, if they're not going to listen, if they're not going to respond, if they're not going to, act in the best interest of the membership, yet it sounds like the majority of membership, I guess, either doesn't care or is just maybe ignorant as to what's going on. I don't know.
Right.
But it sounds politically, unfortunately, the community's not going to rise up and change the board. So that just leaves either the state doing something, but if they're reluctant for whatever reason or not acting, then it's the courts.
And Connie,
yeah, I guess our next step is to get an attorney and see how we can do it that way.
Yeah, and if you get a copy, if you can request a copy of that in writing, certified, send it certified mail, return receipt, and you get a copy of those contracts, those annuity contracts, then if you get that to me, I'll take a look at it, and then like I say, I can get it to Peter or somebody else if you want to pursue something. But I can look at it and see what's going on there, just so you may not be familiar with it. I can get an answer on that pretty quickly.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I have two other questions, but they are a paragraph long, and I know your program's about to end, so I'll have to call back next week.
Yeah, we got another caller too. That'd be great. Yeah, call back next week, and then we'll be happy to get them on.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Connie. You too. Thank you. Bye. All right. Thanks, Connie. John, you're there. Thanks for waiting patiently. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen. I wanted to buy an annuity, and I wanted to get your opinion on a few.
Yeah, we've got some to sell you. I think I'm going to all my associations, and I'm going to get them to give me all their money so that I can go out and invest it for them.
This isn't the annuity show.
Yeah.
Mark's name is Bertie Madoff.
That's right. That's right.
Time is short, so I'll try to be brief.
Okay.
Condominium or homeowners association, the clubhouses, since they're considered, just had a senior moment here. They're non-profit, or there's another name for them. But because they're classified as non-taxable, is that why they're never assessed, the clubhouse or the pool area or something like that?
Well, no, you're talking about real estate taxes?
Yeah, for
Property
condominium
tax.
associations or home property tax.
Yeah, they are subject to tax for income tax purposes, but the reason that they're not subject to tax for real estate tax purposes is that the value of the amenities are factored into the fair market value of your unit, of your home.
Right.
And so that's why you don't
They're not taxed separately because that would be double taxation.
right. Interestingly
So
enough,
it's an
though,
extension.
John,
It's an extension of each unit, you're saying?
yes, because
Right.
if you look at your documents, even in an HOA, the same thing holds true. Even though technically the how you hold the property is different in a condo than it is in an HOA, but because the value of those properties are factored into your house or your home, you would be taxed twice. The interesting thing is that I know a number of associations that have amenities like golf courses and things like that, and they pay separate taxes on the golf course. But if the golf course was owned by the association instead of a separate club, it would be factored in to, and because if you live in a golf course community, the fair market value of your unit is already impacted by the fact that the golf course is there, even if you have to be a member, because it's an amenity that's available in that community. And so it just automatically increases the value of your home. So what actually happens when that stuff happens, when you get that kind of thing, is that the assessments don't actually go up on your house. Your house doesn't actually increase in value when that property is contributed, because it was being double taxed in effect all along. I had the same thing happen with a docominium association, a thing. They ended up giving all of the docks to the association. And when they did that, it had absolutely no impact at all on the homeowners. And so go ahead.
So would you say, like, if I was up against if I had a golf course on my homeowner's property, and because of that extra land, does that land increase the assessment on my condominium unit? Would that be a fair assessment?
It's not that. It's that the amenity is available. It's actually the
value of it is realized through all the homes because they have the right to use it.
Yes.
So it doesn't really have any intrinsic value on its own. The value of that amenity is realized through the individual homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, does that increase my assessment on my individual home?
It probably does. Yes.
It probably does increase the value of your home because you have the right to use that pool, use that golf course, use that whatever. So that, yes.
Okay, so, and this is probably not in your purview, but I've always tried to figure out the assessor's matrix on things, and is there a rhyme or a reason? I mean, does land give you more value than square footage, or vice versa? Or if you can't answer, that's okay. But
no,
here's
how they do it, and it's pretty simple, and that's why it makes a difference if you're transferring property too. what they do is the property appraiser appraises your property based on comparable sales in your community. Okay. So they take in and factor. Now they don't go in and inspect like you would with an appraiser, but they take comparable sales in your community or in your area, and they base the value of your property on those comparable sales. All right. And so now to that, they will add the cost of any improvements that you put to the property. So if you add a pool, you're going to even if you're homesteaded, your assessment's going to go up by the cost of that pool at least. But in general, they appraise it, they use comps, and then that's the fair market value, and then the assessed value is going to be less based on whether or not you are homesteaded and what your actual what kind of caps you've got on the property increases and things like that. But it all goes off of appraisal. That's what it starts with. So what they do is it's a comparable appraisal. So if your house is in a golf course community, even if you got to be a member of the community to play, you're in a golf course community, they're going to compare that the value of your home to the value of other homes in your community. Typically, that's the first place they're going to go. And if they can't, they're going to potentially use comps in selective areas where you've got homes in same golf course community. But almost always in your situation, they're doing a blanket, and they're just going to look at sales in your community or very close to your community with comparable property.
And when you say community, are we talking a mile radius or are just subdivisions per se?
Typically, for the property appraisers, they're going to use your subdivision because that's the easiest way to go. But a regular appraiser would normally use it has to be within the last 6 months and within a mile. That's what they normally use.
Yeah, so within a mile is a fair assessment of my one of my subdivisions that I own a home in. And the trouble I'm having is I've got a resale, but next to my little section of homes is a new home section they're building, and those homes are going for more. But they're giving a market value to those newer homes that are selling for $50,000 more, the same market value that they're giving me as a resale. And that's why I was trying to figure out, well, where's the metrics here? Because if let's say you buy a home for $300,000, well, the market value should be $300,000. That's what they just bought it at. That's what the current market value is. But
well, they use a comparable sale. Like I said, it's comparable. So they do adjust it for age of the house. And it's the actual age and the age itself, the built age. Like if you've just remodeled it all, it will be newer, so to speak. That's in quotes. Than its actual age. But they make those adjustments. They make adjustments for square footage. They make adjustment for other amenities that property might have, for how new it is, how big its lot is, and all that kind of stuff. So there are adjustments for all of that in the comps. But we're running out of time, John. So if you want to join us next week and follow up, we'd be happy to do that. And Peter, as always, appreciate you answering all these questions and helping us out. Thanks for being here on WSTU Digital 1450. We are Martin County's Heritage Station.